What's going on, everybody? This is Professor Crypto Banana, and today I'm doing a collaboration video here with Miles. He's popping off on Twitter. He's giving good metrics, man. He's getting a lot of attention. I'm just excited to do a video and bring him on the channel and see what he's got to say about the Fantom side. So just a quick disclaimer. Hey, anything that we say, it's not going to be financial advice, but go along with the ride. And Miles, take away. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been watching your videos for a while, and I'm a big fan of the channel and the things you're covering. And I just want to say, yeah, happy to be here. And you've probably seen my Twitter or my channel, links in the description. I post a lot of analytical content regarding Fantom and the current landscape of DeFi. And yeah, just having a lot of fun with the Fantom eco right now. It's crazy things are happening.
No, agree, especially with Fantom. It seems like people are rotating out from Avalanche down to Fantom. It's kind of getting the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, well, we saw it a few months ago, like with the big AVAX kind of Fantom rotation narrative, and I think that's definitely picking up again. We've seen Solana have some issues with like DDoS attacks and security, and I think ecosystems that are really vibrant right now, like Fantom, that haven't had those concerns are in the spotlight. So yeah, let's look into some statistics on the network, because it's really going crazy at the moment.
Let's do that. And while I'm loading this up quickly, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Oh, can you see the screen right now?
We can.
Okay,
that's
awesome. Yes, sir. So there's a lot of people now that are talking about, let's say, Luna, Near, Atom. I don't know that much about it. Where would you put this in perspective with Fantom right now? Do you think they both have merit, but one has maybe a little bit more of a perk?
Yeah, well, honestly, I think of Luna in its own category, because it's an L1, but it's kind of not in the same way, just because of its like insane tokenomics. It kind of separates itself from the pack a little bit. I'd say protocols like Near and like AVAX are more comparable to Fantom itself. But just from a pure risk reward standpoint, investment wise, like you've got Near at a higher value, at a higher market cap of like 11 billion. I've forgotten exactly what it is today. And Fantom sitting at around 6 billion. So you've got a discrepancy there on the back of Near, if we're talking about Near specifically, on the back of its developer fund. But we haven't quite seen that action come onto the eco yet. So it's hard to label something as over or undervalued, but definitely if we're looking relative to other chains like Near, you could make the argument Fantom is undervalued, because its activity highly outweighs its market cap in relation to Near. But you could make the same argument about like Harmony One and some of the other chains too, if you'd agree.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's kind of like there's different development that's going on. So Near, people know that it's probably going to be a big thing, that they like it. However, when you look at Fantom, it's a little bit more mature. Like you have different phases, and it's further in the maturity.
We've already had that that kind of development come through. Whereas like things like Near, I guess people are really banking on the downstream effects showing up later down the track, with obviously the massive influx of capital that will lead to users down the track. But that might be a 6 to 12 month process. So I guess it's just risk reward, right? Because you're with something like Near, you're banking on the protocol being able to execute and the developers and the users coming, which they are. But on Fantom, like that's already happened. That's happening. And if you go over to the Fantom unique addresses or even daily transaction chart, we can see that's really happening. So if you want to pull that up now, we can have a look at the transactions, because I guess the difference is like the Fantom network is being highly developed on right now, and we can see here the development activity has just gone completely parabolic. This is actually a week old, and I looked at it recently, and it's gone even more crazy. And I guess that kind of leads me on to the conversation of a flow of funds. So we're actually seeing that now the development's ramping up. What tends to happen is development attracts capital inflow through VCs, big investors, also retail capital, and that development helps create better applications, which eventually leads to user growth, and user growth creates transaction growth, which filters into TVL, which is eventually reflected in the price. So that kind of cycle, that flow of funds really kind of dictates how profitable a certain L1 will be, because people that can get in early in the cycle, like once these development spikes happen, can stand a profit later down the track as as eventually the discrepancy evens out in price, if that makes sense.
How, like, I know it's difficult to give a time frame, but development, it takes time, right? So you see a lot of the commits and a lot of the changes probably happening on GitHub. How long do you think that takes to transpire between that and actual projects coming out and TVL coming out as well?
Honestly, like the process can take months or years, or it really depends. And also, as you see with that GitHub graph, there's massive swings, right? Because developers are constantly hopping on whatever chain's cheaper, has more users, so it does swing. And basically that means that some of these effects we don't actually see for a long period of time. Like Fantom came out in 2018, and we didn't really see. Obviously, it came out during the bear market, which made it really hard to grow. But that process took a couple of years. So certainly, if you're looking at it from a long-term perspective, we're still extremely early, and like that's the exciting part. Like we're seeing DeFi flourish, but we're still so early in the cycle, in my opinion.
So there's a lot of talk about layer ones and layer twos, right? And certain people are trying to say, okay, this one's going to be better, this one's going to be king. Do you see that certain layer ones will have probably a certain area in which they really progress really far and they're known for, let's say, Fantom to be the DeFi chain? Or do you think everything just kind of blurs together because the developers, they can switch between different chains, right? And with all the DeFi that's happening, does it just merge, or do you think each chain has its own specific niche?
I think each chain will, and like we're already kind of seeing that. I mean, obviously interoperability is the future, like cross-chain is the future of DeFi. So we're definitely going to see applications that, and we're seeing it now, like there's a real focus on like bridging, going cross-chain, like I guess spreading out to capitalize on as many users as possible. But in terms of like niches, I definitely think each chain has their own niche in terms of like what kind of projects they're attracting and what users they're attracting. For example, we see Solana, they have obviously a higher focus on gaming projects. We're seeing a lot more like NFT growth in that space, whereas like Fantom is like, I guess, considered right now like the DeFi chain. And in terms of growth, DeFi and decentralized finance growth on Fantom, we're seeing that growing a lot faster on Fantom than we are on chains like Solana. So there's definitely certain priorities that certain chains kind of have, and I guess developers dictate where those priorities are. But Fantom definitely is looking like it can become the king of DeFi, essentially. And then, certain other chains have certain benefits that make them more suitable for things like gaming. And that's just one example, but there's heaps.
Do you think that certain kind of big leaders in the DeFi space, such as Daniele, Andre Cronje, they looked at different chains and they just said, you know what, Fantom is the place to be? Because I know Andre, he probably helped out with Fantom and developing, especially with the FTM Fantom virtual machine. But I feel like Daniele started Popsicle Finance on Fantom, but then also did Wonderland on Avalanche and checked out a few different places. And he pretty much announced that he's going to be coming over to Fantom as his testing environment, right? So do you think that had a big part as to saying like, okay, this is the roots, we're doing DeFi on the Fantom side, perhaps?
Well, yeah, I mean, from my personal experience, like I was using AVAX quite heavily. And then once I switched to Fantom, like I just realized how much faster, how much cheaper, and just more developed the ecosystem was, in my opinion. So I guess having that background, I kind of understand his logic, because he's able to develop a lot cheaper. Like the amount of actions you have to commit on a network means that you actually rack up some huge gas fees when you're creating apps. So that's certainly a factor as to why he's probably switched. And also, he's been a big fan of the Fantom network for a while. You said he started on Fantom, so I guess it was always going to come back to that at some point. But we're just lucky it's happening now, and we're seeing that growth as a result. Certainly a factor. But if you want to go on to Fantom Scan, and we can look at the daily transactions, it's the address chart. Yeah, we're seeing a huge spike here. And that spike has happened coincidentally not coincidentally, but it's happened at the same time as the price growth, which is really, really interesting, because for a while we consolidated in that kind of lower channel, and we're now breaking out into we're creating higher highs, not just in the price, but also in the transaction. So we're actually seeing we're breaking out of the channel on the transactions chart, and we're also breaking out on the price chart. So it's extremely bullish because price growth is actually now being backed up by user growth. A lot of the time we see chains kind of pumping in the hype in the lead up to an event, and it's not actually being backed up by a tangible metric, whereas the Fantom price is being backed up by the transactions, by the wallet addresses, by the TVL. We're seeing fundamental backing, which is resulting in price growth. So that's like the exciting thing for me when I look at these charts. It's just, yeah, it's a much better scenario to be in than Fantom pumping to 350 and the transactions are just dead. You know,
I didn't even know that, because I'm not necessarily a metrics guy. So that's great that you're able to discuss that. I just typically look at the chart and say, okay, how's it comparing against other blockchains? But the fact that you're saying like, no, actually probably look at the total locked value, but then, hey, take a look at the transactions here. You know, that brings another aspect to it to say, actually, there is something going on, because I'm sure people can criticize and say, but what's on this chain? You know, but now there's something to back it up, say, well, this hints that something is actually happening, that something's up.
I don't know if there's an exact chart to show this, but I'd love if like someone could create a daily transactions chart, plot that against price and TVL growth. If we had like somewhere that we could access that data all at once, I don't know how that would work, but if that could be listed under somewhere, that would be really helpful, because we could actually see how they move together. Of course, we can manually do it, but I think that'd be really interesting.
You think that's like a certain type of measurement that could happen, because you know, everybody loves metrics, and taking a look at such as RSI, that would be a very interesting metric as well.
I think you can manually create it. I haven't done it myself, but yeah, if after this video, if we can figure out how to create that, that would be awesome. I think so. Yeah, so John Wang did a thread today, basically just running over the Fantom blockchain, and you know, it's pretty long, so it's going to take too long to cover the whole thing, but make some really interesting points about Fantom's metric and TVL growth in relation to its price, and kind of just emphasized how undervalued we still are at 290 or 280. As you see there, he quotes the development chart, and pull up that second one there with the price multiples. So that looks interesting. I'm pretty sure he's plotting. Yeah, so he's plotting the Fantom price against the market cap, just to kind of see the multiples we're at. So like, as we talked about earlier, like Near protocol has less activity on the chain. Atom, I guess if you're including like Luna under the Atom branch, then it would have more, but like Atom itself, I haven't looked into the stats, but off the top of my head, has less activity on the chain as well as Algo, and Fantom is still a 1.34, 1.8x multiple from them. So that's not even considering AVAX, Dot, Luna, or Sol, which are obviously much further away in price. Which is, yeah, it's great. Like the TVL, like I still can't get over the TVL ratios, huh? It's pretty crazy. Like if you just look at the.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
I mean, ETH, it makes sense, right? Because it's more, you know, the OG. A lot of people are in there. Whales, Binance, Smart Chain, okay, but you know, the Sol, and yeah, going down the list, you're like, wow, Fantom is really neglected right here.
Yeah, but basically, if you're, I'm sure you understand, but if you are struggling to understand this chart, it's showing you what Fantom's price would be if it had the same TVL to market cap ratio as other L1s. So the same relative value if DeFi is the metric that you're going off. DeFi being measured by TVL. So if Fantom had the same ratio as Sol, we'd have basically a $10 Fantom. If it had the same ratio as BNB, it's $11. And I guess the exciting thing about this stat is it's not even talking about prices today. Like it's not saying that, in the future, it's not saying Fantom can get to 11 in the future. It's saying like, no, based on today's statistics, not tomorrow's, today's statistics, we are potentially 5x undervalued. Now, obviously, how much you value TVL is up to you, because it's not the be all and end all of a metric by any means, but it's certainly a big factor. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how undervalued we are in those terms.
So In a very quick, simplified way, can you say what TVL is? I know it's total value locked, but I think, okay, is that just money and funds locked into a project and people are saying, I got certain funds and I'm keeping it stored on the Fantom side as opposed to bridging it over to, let's say, Ethereum?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's the total amount of liquidity captured in a chain, to put it in a nutshell. So it's the aggregate, so the total amount of capital deposited into all the projects in an ecosystem, and it's the total amount that's added up into what we call the TVL, total value locked. So it's basically just tracks liquidity, essentially, is the gist of it.
Now, Fantom seems like it's climbing up as the underdog here, but someone could argue like, well, it's just the flavor of the week, right? Because there's so many layer ones that just seem to be coming up. What would you say when it comes down to Fantom? It's like, well, this is actually something special. Like my answer for that would be, it's EVM compatible. A lot of the metrics that we're discussing, but just even using it is just so nice. It's so smooth. Go to Spooky Swap, right now, and that was the first, DEX I used out there, and I used that. I was in love. I was like, this is so easy, low gas fees.
Yeah. So many reasons. Honestly, so many reasons. We got first and foremost, like I got to shout out the community, because project success, they're driven by two things. Before we look at any metrics, before we look at any statistics, basically community and developers. Community and teams are the two things that drive a project. With Fantom, we have the most amazing community, pretty much. Not only are we number one on Luna Crush by social statistics, which means we're the number one talked about blockchain. I'm saying where, but Fantom is the number one rated blockchain out of any blockchain at the moment. But also just the amount of activity that we see on Twitter, YouTube, like we have a really dedicated, hyped community, Discord. So just, I don't know if you can get the start up. If you go into Luna Crush's Twitter, it might have it, but yeah.
Well, I see Spooky Swap right here.
Yeah, that's the top 10 altcoin right now. I'm not exactly sure, but while you look at that, basically community is the first thing that drives a project. So that's a big, big tick. Much more developed community than a lot of other L1s. And then obviously development. Like we've got Andre, we've got Daniele, we've got some really, really big developers. Like we talk a lot about those two, but Fantom's actually been very active in onboarding new devs outside of that as well. Obviously, they operate more in the Asian market at the moment, just because that's where they're based and a lot of their devs are based. So I guess we don't hear about about a lot of the developments taking place, but they are taking place. I saw a statistic the other day about the development onboarding in the Fantom for the Fantom Foundation, and it's crazy. They're extremely active. But yeah, a lot of people like to talk about Andre and Daniele because they're the two figureheads, huh?
Well, agreed. Yeah, and talk about community. You got to be honest. Like Daniele, he's the leader of the pack of Frog Nation, as you can tell right here. That people follow him. I mean, there was, even when there's a little bit of a discussion going on, things get a little bit heated. You can tell that people really, like Daniele, regardless of price and everything that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, extremely loyal following, and like that's why it's so bullish that he wants to come across. Him and Andre created a coin that's launching, I think, this month. So him coming across, developing on Fantoms, very bullish for the space, because I guess it'll bring a lot of his followers across, won't it? And that's there you go. Launching a new coin will start Fantom
season.
Fantom January.
Fantom January.
Yeah,
you gotta come up with a good one, because with the October, that was a good one for Fantom with the theme. But how do we get January in there? We'll have to figure that out.
Well, actually, I don't want to take too much credit for this, but I think I may have started Fantom January.
Okay. Hey, if I see it trending, we'll give it definitely trending,
you know where it came from. I was literally sitting. I've forgotten where. Oh yeah, I was just sitting like on New Year's Eve with a few friends. To celebrate New Year's, and I thought, all right, it's New Year's, I got to tweet something for New Year's, and that was the first thing that popped in, Fantom January. So
that was it. It's like New Year's resolution. I gotta get my Fantom bags up.
to be fair,
I gotta
someone
like
else
really get in there.
someone else probably posted it before me, but yeah, let's get that
Hey,
one trending. If you're watching this, Daniele, it's not Fantom season, it's Fantom January, right?
well, I like the season. Like, please, I
To
want
be
the
fair,
season, not the month.
to be
Not the
fair,
month.
I think what we do is we go Fantom January, and then
Uh-huh.
February 1st, it's Fantom season, because then we got a double whammy. We can kind of
Uh,
keep the ball rolling. But anyway,
can you like include holidays as well? Like Valentine's Day, we make it
yeah,
Fantom.
Fantom Valentine.
Fantom.
Obviously, Fantom
So
Halloween's a big one.
oh yeah, well that's dude, that would be a huge event if you could get something like major, like a Fantom conference that happens on Halloween. I think that would be amazing. But
Not financial advice, but I'd be willing to bet that if you accumulated Fantom in the lead up to Halloween each year and did a little bit of trading, not financial advice, you'd probably do pretty well.
Yeah, well, nothing in the video, of course, is financial advice, but especially that. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely not. But yeah, buy the rumor, sell the news on the Halloween stuff.
Well, we got to talk about some other like little developments. I may just chuck in some information, but I want to make sure that I give a shout out to Fantom community alerts, because if we're talking about community and getting the word out there and really helping out the chain, like this is the guy that got me started into Fantom. I knew nothing about LP tokens, anything. I watched his videos, tutorials, and they really helped me out. And what he's doing for the spaces is quite amazing. So talk about community and helping that out. I gotta give a shout out to him for sure.
He's awesome. He's yeah, he's really awesome. Shout out to him. I think he does a great job at onboarding new users as well, and yeah, just providing some great info to the community. And yeah, if we just want to quickly run through, like, maybe we talked a lot about TVL before, and I've got multiple threads on it, but maybe go into the CoinGecko and we can have a look at some of the projects, because obviously macro landscape, there's a lot of talk about Fed tapering and raising interest rates next year. So there's a bit of a spooky, pardon the pun, with the Fantom ecosystem, but there's a bit of a spooky market vibe going on at the moment with some of this stuff. So what are your thoughts on the macro picture of crypto with Bitcoin dropping?
I got to take a look at Bitcoin, and I reduced my amount of trend lines, but overall I see it seems that it's kind of coiling up maybe right here, and I have to be patient, because earlier in the videos I talked about like credit card deals, like, oh, it's going down low and people are saying you're so dumb for selling at the bottom. But when you really look at the grand scheme of things, like, you got time. This took 67 days for Bitcoin to pop off, right? So looking at this, I still think that Bitcoin has some room to grow, and obviously people are used to it. But I think the trends are changing now. I'm reading different books, and I'm trying to connect what past people in the markets have done and correlating it to over here, because the markets are very inefficient, right? Because it's so new, people don't know where it's going, things are developing. I mean, we can take a look at on-chain metrics, and I think maybe you even posted this out, I'm not sure, how back Ethereum had major domination over the market on the altcoins, and then we're just moving forward. Look at how much it's spreading out. So
yeah,
there's opportunity all around, and I think Bitcoin may just go sideways for a while. People know about it, but they don't know how the altcoins are going to behave. And I'm using some price action and different ideas. I'm saying, wow, I look at this chart right here, and you couldn't tell me that Bitcoin suffered today or just in general. All I see is a nice upward momentum, at least for right now. What it does in the future, I don't know. But just looking at the chart right now, I go, wow, there's something in the water here.
I guess that reiterates, like, if you're in the good projects, you can still profit in crypto against the trends, right? Obviously, it's a lot harder these days to you can't. I think at the moment in the current climate, you can't just chuck money out there and expect a return. Like, you have to be a lot more selective with your investments now, and like make sure you're in the good projects. Make sure you're not in the shit coins, or at least not heavily exposed to them, and make sure you're in the good projects. And like, clearly there's a lot of good projects on Fantom right now that look like they can really continue to grow and continue to flesh out their ecosystem. So yeah, if we just go through the list, I mean, there's, if you look at the weekly down on the right side, like some crazy growth, and some of them have pulled back today, and some are actually still in the green because we had such a big rally yesterday. So yeah, super interesting. What are some of your favorite ecosystem tokens at the moment?
On Fantom? Oh man, I got a lot. Well, in the past, I got wrecked just in basic plays I did on different chains, right? So I decided to circle back to Fantom because it's my home. It's the one that is my bay. I know the most about, and I don't want to take on that much extra risk. So naturally, I was looking at Tomb, the T shares. I like ICE, even though it's spread across. Spooky Swap, I think, is great in the user experience right now. So definitely no shade on that, but I like the innovation that could come out of Spirit Swap and the different things that they got going on. Obviously, I've done a lot of videos about Liquid Driver and their combination. It's just like, oh, and then what Liquid, I think if I had to pick one project that I'm super in love with the most at the time, it's got to be Liquid Driver. But which one is yours and for what reasons?
I'm very similar to you. Mine's personally Spirit Swap, just because like I absolutely love that they've got base functionality with their decks, with their UI up and performance upgrades, so they can actually challenge Spooky on the decks front. But then they've also got the insane inSPIRIT staking gauge mechanisms, which like the demand side and also the supply side with the lockups is just crazy. And I think with the Spirit Wars raging on, we're going to see that demand for Spirit really ramp up. And I also like, I don't know exactly what your strategy is, but I have most of my Liquid Driver locked up. So I like how I can keep my Spirit liquid and continue to farm my Spirit as well. So that's kind of where my strategy is on those side of things. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And there'll be a video on my channel as well where we discuss some of these strategies more in depth and just talk about DeFi a little bit, because I know that's your forte.
Okay, I gotta break out and see. Like, I just took a look at the gauging system. So you know how we just spoke about the gauging system that Spirit has, and naturally, people on the Spirit Swap side that they're locking in on the DEX itself got 40%. But dude, Liquid Driver, that strategy, look, 33%. Okay. I'm just we'll talk. I see you going like, oh my goodness.
I didn't realize the last time I checked, this was 25, and that was like 2 days ago. So this is like just nuts.
Wow. I think.
Do
you think that Liquid Driver could have great positions on Beethoven X Spirit Swap, and it could be the go-to place in order to say like, yo, we want liquidity. We're going to bribe you. We're going to do whatever we got to do. But maybe we'll check it out on the other person's channel.
Yeah, we'll talk about this.
We'll reveal that for later.
This is such a long discussion. And also, it's also very hard to wrap your head around the whole thing because there's just so many scenarios. But I guess that's the fun of it, right? But yeah, no, Spirit Spot, definitely one of my favorite projects. And then, Liquid Driver. I really like Tarot. There's a few good plays here, but the ecosystem is thriving at the moment, and that's the important thing. There's absolutely no worry on the macro side of things when it comes to Fantom Projects at the moment, because I think we're poised. We're in a nice position here to see some nice growth. Not financial advice.
Absolutely. So I think that's a good segue. So this could be like part one, and then you can check out the other person's channel to see the continuation of like more specific discussions on the projects on the Fantom side and where we see things going. But since we're concluding and getting towards the end, are there any final comments you like, and also drop down where people can follow you, find you, keep up with your content?
Well, my name is Miles Deutscher. The links will be in the description for my Twitter and YouTube, and we'll discuss some of this DeFi stuff a little more on my channel as well, as I know that's your forte. But I post a lot of macro stuff, and if you haven't seen my stuff already, go and check some of that out. And thanks so much for having me. I really enjoy discussing this stuff, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. And by the way, I gotta shout out, like, dude, you seeing Miles right now? Let's just bookmark it right here. He's got 12,000 followers, and he's getting the attention of major people such as Rand. I'm going to mispronounce the name, but he's got 500,000 followers, and he's shouting out, the big Harry Ye, Daniele, Andre, but Miles is right here. He's just like, are you kidding me? Like, oh man, that is so awesome. Congrats, dude. You're gonna be big.
It's crazy how like I'm not worthy of this at all, but it's crazy how like my name is being brought up in the same sentence as these guys, because it's like they're just on another level, and I'm just this guy doing my little research, and there I am next to them. But nah, shout out to them.
Man, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on the video. It was great to have you here. And yeah, let's hop on over to the next video.
Let's do it. Thank you.